Welcome back to the Sully Scoop, where three lifelong Husker bros dive in depth on all surrounding the new era of Husker football, where our cups never run dry of the Roulade under head coach Matt Rule, made by fans for fans with TSul, BSul, and TSul. The Sully Scoop is the official Nebraska Cornhusker football podcast brought to you by Big Banter. Welcome into your favorite Cornhusker podcast. That's the Sully Scoop. You're here with TSul, BSul, and TSul. And this week, you know, the vibes are high coming out of a week with a win, but not only a win, a Big Ten win against Illinois at Illinois in Urbana on a Friday night. Who could have seen this coming?
I saw it coming, TSul, and I'm the only one on the panel who saw this coming.
Not so fast there, BSul. Not so fast. If you want to turn the clock back all the way to the beginning of the season, I told you this from the get-go. If you want to get Nebraska straight, if you want to right the ship, Illinois is the team you got to right it against. Beat Illinois every single year. Start there. Never let those guys beat you, and then build up for the bigger wins from there.
Well, TSul,
you're saying
you picked Illinois to win this game at the beginning of the year. You picked Illinois to win the game at the beginning of the week. I don't know how you're coming out here and saying that you were on BSul's side. I got to be honest, I did not see this coming. I thought Illinois was going to trample over the Huskers just like they have done for the past 5 years. I didn't think anything would have changed. Maybe Illinois has fallen further this past offseason than previously, because I don't know if I'm getting on the train that the Huskers are back just yet.
And TSul, you stole my thunder here. TSul picked this Illinois team to win the Big Ten West. TSul picked this Illinois team to, dare I say, steamroll this Nebraska team.
No.
TSul out here had all his flags and all his chips and all his horses riding for Brett Bielema, and then he looked as stunned as Bielema did in the first quarter when Illinois couldn't get anything going after getting stopped at the 1 yard line. Let me tell you, TSul, it was a sloppy game. We called it last week going into this game, but heck of a win. Proud of these boys for getting a win. Listen, we're 3-3. We've been 3-3 the last 2 seasons as well. Let's see how the team rebounds halfway through the season.
I do want to say that I think that last 4th and 1 from the 1 yard line, that stand changed the game, changed the outcome, changed the morale for the entire game. I think this is a lot closer of a game if Illinois scores that touchdown right there. And honestly, I don't know if the Huskers respond the way they did, as quick as they did. The Huskers came out flying on all cylinders. That, all right, our defense showed up again. Let's see what the offense can do. And guess what? They put it together. Why? Because Illinois just isn't that good.
So I'm with you there. You know, just stuffing them at the goal line on 4th and 1 and coming away and getting out of it without giving up any points. It just, sparked the team to get going from there, and they never looked back. And I agree with you. If they gave up a touchdown, they might have fallen flat and fell into the same thing that they did against Michigan, but the team decided to take a stand, and you love to see it because that means that this team is different than the teams in years past. And so that shows that we're headed in the right direction. And BSul, I did pick Illinois at the beginning of the season, but to sit here and say that I was calling for them last week is ridiculous.
The first step in recovery here is admitting when you're wrong. And I'm glad to hear that you're coming out and saying that you picked Illinois. You're admitting your problem here.
But if you recall, last week I told you that there's no chance Illinois is winning the Big Ten West. And so I'm correct, because Illinois will not be winning the Big Ten West. And I also told you that I thought the loser of Illinois-Nebraska has the potential to not win another game on the season. And after the team we saw at Illinois, I can tell you they're probably not winning another game this year. So we just beat the worst team in the Big Ten. Congrats, okay? before you start waving your victory flag over there, B-Sul, and planting your flag in the ground that we conquered the West, let's conquer the next 3 games first, because we got Northwestern, Michigan State, and Purdue. 3 teams with losing records, 3 horrible teams, and 3 teams that really any team with a pulse should be able to come out and beat. So, B-Sul, if we win these next 3 games, then I'm with you. We're competing for the West, and let's actually try to take out Wisconsin this year. But until that happens, I'm still not completely convinced that we're going to go 3-0. I mean, when's the last time the Huskers won 4 games in a row? And don't even say ease the schedule this year, because it's not like our schedule last year was that difficult.
I never said last year's schedule was difficult. Last year, it was a debacle under Scott Frost. The schedule this year does pan out. I think the Huskers can rattle off a handful of wins here. And especially, when we're getting each of these teams who they're playing before and after us helps. Nobody's taking Nebraska seriously still. And so that helps us in the long run. But TSul, I got to circle back here. You don't think this Illinois team is going to win another game?
No.
Do you think,
I don't.
Do you think, just out of curiosity, you believe this Illinois team is the worst team in the Big Ten?
I do now. Yes.
You think they're worse than Indiana?
I do.
Really?
Yep.
I would struggle to believe that this Illinois team is as bad as Indiana, because I would circle that as a game on the schedule there that Illinois will win easily. And I would be willing to put a bet down with you on that, TSul. There is no way this Illinois team loses November 11th, 11-11. Illinois takes on Indiana at home, and I guarantee you that will be a conference win for the Illini.
Now, B-Sul, did I just hear you correctly? Did I just hear you say that on your calendar, you're circling the Illinois versus Indiana game, a game that everyone else, if it happens to pop out on their TV, is probably turning it off or walking away?
You gotta pay extra to stream this one. This is on Big Ten Plus, my friend.
I'll tell you this, B-Sul. If you bet on either team, you're probably throwing your money out, because that is going to be the ugliest game you've probably seen all season. That's going to be a game of who can give away the ball the most.
Listen, it probably will be, but I'm telling you, that is a game that Illinois should be circled and getting excited for. That will keep them from going winless in the conference this year.
I still think they lose that game, honestly. I mean, Indiana's going to be way more battle tested at that point. And Illinois has shown signs that, they're not that garbage of a team. They are a garbage team, yes, but they're not the rug that people come in, wipe their feet on, spill their martini on.
Let's just make it interesting. I know we're not Illinois' podcast. I know we're not Indiana's podcast, but let's just get it interesting here. I want you, when Illinois steamrolls Indiana on November 11th, I want you to come on the podcast and just admit that I want you to come out and tell the entire Scoop listeners, all the loyal Scoopers, how atrocious your hot takes have been this season, and that B-Sul is the smartest person on the panel.
Didn't I hit my hot take of the season? You
have not hit a hot take yet this season.
Are you just blacking out the Minnesota losing to Northwestern hot take?
I believe that's only the first part of the hot take. The second is that PJ Fleck will not make it through the year, and I can tell you right now that is not going to happen.
Are you sure about that?
You're sitting over here, TSul. Yes, I'm positive, because I can tell you right now, you are sitting here and you got greedy, my friend. You parlayed them together. You wanted that bigger payout, and I don't see that happening.
B-Sul, Minnesota for the last however many years has been winning 8 and 9 games. They're sitting at 3-3 right now, and they just finished the easy part of their schedule. Let me say that again. They finished the easy part of their schedule going 3-3. Minnesota has potential to lose out. They do have that potential. Now, I think that they will beat Michigan State, but I'm not sold they will beat Purdue, and they should beat Illinois, but at that point they might be just the beaten down horse that can't get up, and Illinois capitalizes on them.
Yeah. I think there's enough on these hot takes that you tried to get greedy that I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, let's just even face it. Let's revisit here. Devin Mockabee going to have more touchdowns than Gabe Ervin. You should have locked that in. You should have locked that in. That hit because Gabe went down. Now, I can tell you the part that has no shot at being made is Devin Mockabee will not only have more touchdowns than Gabe Ervin, he will have 14 touchdowns on the season.
How many is he at?
4. He's got 6 games left.
He can get hot.
He's going to hit 10 touchdowns in a total of 4 games.
Don't count him out yet.
He's not scoring against Michigan. He's not scoring against Ohio State. So you're already down to 4 games now. You think he's getting 10? Hold on a
second. Now hold the phone here, because Purdue's history against Ohio State is pretty favorable. And if you look at their history in the last
I don't care about history. Played,
no, it does matter. You know why?
Okay.
Because there was a 5-year hiatus. There was a 5-year hiatus where they didn't schedule Purdue versus Ohio State. And those 5 years were the best recent 5 years of Ohio State's history. And they have a championship, an undefeated championship circled in there. Guess what? Nebraska didn't get that favorable type of schedule. They stopped scheduling Purdue versus Ohio State so Ohio State could rise to the top and not get those surprise upsets, because Nebraska's history, we've done really well against Michigan State. And guess who they stopped scheduling us against? Michigan State, except for this year. And guess what? The other team that we have success against is Penn State. And guess who hasn't played Penn State in like 6 years?
Wait, we're not skipping over this. We're not skipping over this.
Hold on.
Let me go get the tinfoil hats out. No, hold up. Did you just come out here and say that the only reason Ohio State has climbed to the top is because the Big Ten stopped scheduling Purdue on their schedule?
Yes, Jason.
That's the part you're focused in on.
Look up the history, because if they lose to Purdue, they're not going to the
nobody
playoffs.
Cares.
Hold on.
Nobody cares about the history. Just go look at the teams.
If they
Ohio State
lose,
is light years above them.
What you don't understand,
to Purdue, they don't go to the playoff.
TSul,
do you agree or do you disagree?
You get your tinfoil hat out and you put that on.
If anyone loses to Purdue, they don't go to the playoff.
There you go. That's why they stopped scheduling them. They've been losing to them.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Hold on.
Let me
somebody get Kevin Warren on the phone, because I want to know why Purdue got lucky to still lose out 6 games a year and not have to play Ohio State. What kind of crap is that?
Well,
how did we draw the straw that they were like, hey, Nebraska, guess what? You're going to play Ohio State every year. But Purdue is so dangerous to Buckeye Nation that we're taking them off the schedule. Purdue, you are going to play. You are going to play
5 losses.
Well, apparently, or would they get an extra loss because they're not getting that win against Ohio State that apparently they locked in every year?
Okay, now let's do recent years. Okay. We're going to run through the history, and you're going to hear why.
I want to know, all time. What is the record against them? What is the all-time record between Ohio State and Purdue?
Purdue has 15 wins and 41 losses. And you agree.
Juggernaut.
You agree that that's closer than what it should be for the quality of team that Purdue is. You agree.
I'm sorry. I don't think 41.
That stat right there should be 41 losses.
No.
Purdue's a team you should beat 10 times and lose 2 once.
But you're talking, you go all the way back. Purdue's had good quarterbacks.
All the way back,
it's recent.
It's recent.
I just asked for the all-time record. And you're telling
nobody cares about the 1903 matchups, Beazle. We're talking about recent history.
Apparently they do. Because I guarantee that's where Purdue probably has about 7 or 8 wins out of their 14.
You're wrong. It's recent.
Okay.
All the grandparents that are tuning into the scoop right now just got offended there, TSul. You take that back, because those games did matter. Yes, but they might not have been playing for the Big Ten or the not even the Big Eight at that time, but those games mattered. They didn't even have helmets back then. They had the leather caps, and those games still mattered.
Well, let me tell you.
Okay.
Let me go through the recent history, okay? Recent history. The last time they played was 2021, and Ohio State won 59-31 in Columbus.
Hold on.
Okay?
Hold on.
Columbus.
No, I got a serious question here. I got to stop everything. I thought you told me that they haven't played in 5 years.
I said
What year is it? What year is it?
I said there was a 5-year hiatus. I didn't say it was recent 5-year. The 5-year hiatus was between 2013 and 2018. They didn't play. And guess who won a national championship in that time? Ohio State. Okay?
If they would have played Purdue,
would argue,
if they would have played Purdue, Purdue would have had a national championship.
No.
Yeah,
Purdue what would have happened is Ohio State wouldn't have been in the playoff. Because if you recall, the only reason Ohio State got put in the playoff is for dropping 70 points on Wisconsin in the championship. But nobody would have cared about that if they had a loss to Purdue on the schedule. And what the Big Ten did and Kevin Warren did is he took away that possibility. He took away their juggernaut. Meanwhile, for Nebraska, he scheduled their juggernaut every year. It's Wisconsin. We can't beat Wisconsin. Well, guess who's in the same division now? Wisconsin. He did the exact opposite for Nebraska, what he did for Ohio State. And you can argue all you want with me, but you'll be wrong and I'll be right because, history proves it.
And don't you forget it.
You go to 2018, okay? Who was the better team in 2018?
No, let's just go back. Hold on. So you said the better team in 2018? You said in recent years. Just let's get back to the main thing before we get off topic here again. In recent years, Purdue has been more successful against Ohio State. So you went back to 2021.
Than anybody else in the conference.
Okay,
yes.
So 2021, they lost. I'm pretty sure a lot of teams lost. So let's keep going.
They lost 59-31, so they put up a fight.
They gave up 59 points. So let's continue.
And Ohio State gave up 31.
Garbage time against the
Purdue.
third stringers. Yeah.
I think it was the other way around. I'm sure if we rewatched film, I'm sure Ohio State scored 3 garbage time touchdowns.
I am not going back to watch a Purdue-Ohio State game.
That's the exact kind of coach that Ryan Day is. Ryan Day hasn't done much for Ohio State. It's the truth of the matter. He's not Urban Meyer.
Agreed. Agreed. He is nowhere near Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is the best college football coach. He's done it multiple places.
JSul, what you have to understand here is Ryan Day apparently is 1-0 against Purdue from what I've just heard. And it sounds like TSul said in recent years, Purdue's been more successful, which would lead us back into the Urban Meyer days. Are you telling me, TSul, that Urban Meyer struggled against Purdue? Are we going all the way back? Are we going all the way back to the Jim Tressel days?
They had a 5-year hiatus. They had a 5-year hiatus.
They all did.
When they came in.
Okay, so let's get these records. Let's get these records. Let's go last 10 matchups. What are we talking?
Okay, so 2021 in Columbus, Ohio State wins 59-31.
Okay,
Purdue puts up a fight, but they lose on the road.
0-1.
In 2018, so you're talking now, they didn't play in 2022, they didn't play in 2020 or 2019. So in 2018, at home, Purdue wins 49-20. They blew them out. Are you surprised by that?
I am very surprised, but we're 1-1, baby. Let's get cooking. Let's go back. 1-1.
Now, you're in 2013. So they went 5 years without playing each other. And Ohio State beat them 56-0 in West Lafayette.
1-2.
I can see why they took them off their schedule.
In 2012 in Columbus, Ohio State won 29-22 in overtime.
Okay. 1-3. A loss is a loss, baby. Let's keep going.
2011 in West Lafayette, Indiana, Purdue beat Ohio State 26-23.
Oh, Purdue got another win. Okay, so last 5 matchups, Purdue's got 2 wins, 3 losses. Let's keep going.
Okay, but let's stop there for a second. Does that surprise you with where we are right now?
No, because they'd have about 10 losses if they played every year.
I don't think so. And neither does the Big Ten, and that's why they don't schedule them every year.
I don't think so.
If the Big Ten wasn't worried about Purdue, they would schedule them with Ohio State every year. But they are worried about it because they're worried about getting left out of the playoff. And that's all that matters. And they've shown that. So that's why they've stopped putting Purdue against Ohio State, because they're one of few teams in the Big Ten who have had any success
now,
if any at all, against Ohio State.
Now, TSul, I'm gonna ask you just hear me out. I'm gonna need you to take that tinfoil hat off and just listen to me for a second here, okay? If the Big Ten was so concerned about Purdue and not having them on the schedule to get into the Big Ten or get into the playoffs like you're talking, why is Purdue playing Ohio State and Michigan this year? Wouldn't you think that those are your top two options to get into the playoffs, that if you were that concerned about this Purdue Boilermaker team, you would have them off the schedule? Does this go even deeper? Did the Big Ten pay off Jeff Brom to leave Purdue and go back to Louisville, where he just pulled the upset of all time last weekend?
TSul, I said Ohio State struggles with Purdue, not Michigan. Ohio State.
But you just said the Big Ten is not scheduling Purdue because they want to get in the college football playoff. Purdue is playing the Big Ten's top two options to get into the playoff this year. So I would say
they can't beat
foils
Michigan.
your plane.
They can't beat Michigan. The Big Ten has no worries there. And if they knock off Ohio State, the Big Ten doesn't care because they don't think Ohio State's as good as Michigan based on that schedule. Now, if we continue on, in 2010 in Columbus, Ohio State won 49-0. Okay? They blew them out at home. Then 2009 in West Lafayette, Purdue wins 26-18. Are you guys shocked by these results?
I don't even care.
The Ohio State juggernaut who ran the Big Ten is struggling with a caliber team as Purdue. Isn't that mind-boggling? And then they have the audacity to take them off the schedule. Let's make it real easy for Ohio State and just let it just blow away. All your problems blow away out the window.
I didn't even know they weren't on their schedule. I didn't even know there was a 5-year hiatus. I am not up here reading about Purdue.
I'm telling you.
Now,
I'm telling you. I wish the Big Ten could make Nebraska's days easier.
Hold on.
But they make them harder.
Are you guys
I would much
ready?
rather play Purdue than Ohio State or Michigan.
I'm ready to blow both your minds. Are you ready for this one?
We got to get back to another hot take, but
he is already talking here about the Big Ten removing Purdue from Ohio State's schedule because Purdue puts up a fight against them and blah, 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 or whatever. So Purdue's all-time record against Michigan is 14-46. Pretty comparable, I would say, to the Ohio State record. Now, where it gets interesting here, TSul, is let's dive a little deeper, because Michigan also had a 5-year hiatus from playing Purdue from 2012 to 2017.
Purdue fans didn't even know this. Nobody cares about Purdue, okay?
Apparently Kevin Warren does. Kevin Warren cares a lot about Purdue. Time to put your tinfoil hats on, and let's dive deeper into Kevin Warren's conspiracies.
I don't even know anyone that stays up to date on Purdue athletics, but apparently these two do. Who even looks into Purdue athletics? Not this guy. I can let you know that. But let's flip it back to Devin Mockabee. Who exactly? Apparently he is the Purdue running back who TSul is out here saying is going to have 14 touchdowns on the year. He only currently has 4. And don't forget who Purdue still has on their schedule: Ohio State, Michigan, and the number 2 rushing defense in the Big Ten, and that is the Cornhuskers. There is no way that Mockabee is coming out here and he's going to have 10 touchdowns in the matter of 6 games when 3 of them are the likes of Nebraska, Michigan, and Ohio State. Chalk it up as another L on one of TSul's hot takes, because let me tell you, all the loyal scoopers, you already know, but any new people listening right now, TSul has never hit a hot take. Never.
JSL, that is a bunch of crap, and you know that I landed that Oklahoma having a worse schedule last year, or a worse overall record last year than Minnesota and Purdue both. You know that I landed that one, and you know that I called that Northwestern hot take topping off Minnesota. But
all right,
so honestly,
we already labeled it that is not complete. It's in the works, but it's
gonna
complete.
hit. And Jay, so that's honestly beyond the fact that we're talking about how Kevin Warren set up the Big Ten for Michigan and Ohio State to succeed. And for Penn State, he gave them the same opportunity. And you want to know why and how I know that he gave Penn State the same opportunity? Because he stopped scheduling them against Nebraska. This is one of the teams in the Big Ten Nebraska just seems to always beat. And so who do we stop playing? Frickin' Penn State. And who are we going to blame? The frickin' Big Ten board of idiots. That's who. Because if you dive through the recent years, we haven't played Penn State since that fake season of 2020, where we beat them 30-23. That's right. We only won 2 games that season, and one of them was Penn State. 2017, we lost to them 56-44. And Scott Frost's famous first year where he didn't know the difference between a football and a banana. And then you go to 2013. We beat those guys in overtime 23-20. You go to 2012. We beat those guys 32-23. You go to 2011. We beat those guys 17-14. And that was when we were supposedly their rival in the Big Ten, and we were going to play them every year until we kept beating them. And then they're like, you know what? We don't want Nebraska to succeed that bad, so we're going to stop scheduling them against them. And wait, who does Nebraska keep losing to? Ohio State, like pretty much everybody else in the country. All right, here's Ohio State. Here's Ohio State. Yep, we know what the Big Ten and Kevin Warren was doing.
I got to tell you guys, it's kind of a breath of fresh air for TSul to be the one out here giving conspiracy theories for once. Normally, he's the one poking holes in all of them, but he's out here, tinfoil hat and all, buying into the Big Ten, screwing Nebraska year in and year out. And let me tell you something. I'm here for it. Did you guys see this schedule for next year? And they're talking, none of the teams in the Big Ten will have to travel coast to coast in back-to-back weeks, that they're going to give them the opportunity. They're going to put a bye week in between there. Baloney. I guarantee you that Nebraska will be playing in at Rutgers on a Saturday night late game, and then we will turn around and we will have a Friday morning or a Saturday morning game in USC, Southern California, the very next week. They are going to find a way to send us coast to coast. And then after that USC game, rather than give us a bye week, nope, we're going to send you back across country to the East Coast. It's going to be a horrible 3 weeks of travel for the boys.
And TSul, did you see who they happened to leave off our schedule for next year? Penn frickin' State. That's who.
Well, before we get on to playing Penn State again, there's a few things that these Huskers need to fix if we're going to continue to see more wins this season. And that comes down to, I believe our penalties got worse this week, as we had 10 penalties for 70 yards, and which Matt Rule, which I did like, he was coming out here and he was blaming the refs. I 100% agree. If it's on the refs, you let them know it's on the refs. Don't take the fall for somebody else's mistakes. Listen, they were out there. We got a bunch of false starts because we're the only team that gets the disconcerting signals when they're on defense. We're the only team that can, clap on defense and all of a sudden it's called. But other teams that do it against the Huskers never get it called. Another thing I want to say that we got to get better at is the turnovers. You can't have 3 turnovers in a game and consistently win games. Yes, this was against Illinois, so that helped the Huskers out in getting this win. I think pretty much any team in the country could have 3 turnovers against Illinois and still come out with a win. And the Huskers clearly showed it here. And another thing the Huskers got to really work on is getting more yards per rush when they're running the ball. They only got 3.2, which isn't terrible, but I want to see that number up above 4.5 to 5. before, the Huskers are starting to control the clock, which they did in this game. I mean, 37 minutes to 22 is clear control of the game. The Huskers had this one from the get-go after that 4th down stand on the goal line. But there's one thing I want to take away from this game that I didn't really like, other than the 1-for-1 on 4th down. Obviously, I love that. But the 3rd down efficiency was not good. And why? It is because Satterfield is out here trying to run a balanced offense. Listen, our passing to rushing should never be exactly on par. 154 to 158, that's exactly on par. If you're within, 15, 20 yards, that's pretty much on par. We should have more rushing guards. And guess what happens with that? You don't get sacked in the backfield. And all of a sudden, you're not behind the chains to start, which is why we were only 5 for 15 on first downs, is because we started behind the chains. Run the ball on first down and work with it from there.
Now, TSul, going to echo your point here, I strongly feel that Satterfield is trying to be creative with the offense. I think he's going to make those excuses. Do I think he's the right answer as an offensive coordinator? Absolutely not. I don't think the guy knows how to call play call, or I don't think he knows how to call plays. But when you look at it, Nebraska shot themselves in the foot so many times with those penalties that you were behind the sticks a lot. I think that led to him calling more pass plays to try and open it up to free up some running lanes. I mean, let's be real here. There's no reason that this team didn't have 5 yards of carry against Illinois. They should have been doing that. But I do have to tell you, my big takeaway from this game, and it's going to sound a little bit of a change here, especially going into a bye week, because this will probably be the week it bites me for saying it. Haarberg will be the quarterback moving forward. I've told you from the get-go that I thought if Sims was healthy, Sims would be the guy that they would put Sims in. They trust him. He's Matt Rule's guy. Heinrich looked the part. The offense seems to run smoother. He's not completing passes very consistently, but Sims wasn't doing that. But I feel like the offense is running smoother with Haarberg at quarterback than it ever did with Sims.
Now, that's something I can get behind you with. I believe at this point in time, this is Haarberg's team. And
who?
Is he flashy? No, he's not a flashy guy. But you know what? He doesn't need to be, because if he's behind center, you figure he will do enough to get Nebraska to the promised land for next season, which is making a bowl game. And if you put Sims out there, you just don't know what he's going to do, and he might end up costing you a game like he did against Minnesota, and you just can't have that. But what I want to say about Satterfield, I still don't love the dude either, but at least coming into this week, he switched around his play calling, and we threw 24 passes and ran it 49 times. So for every 2 rushes, we threw 1 pass. I love that. And moving forward, that is exactly what we need to do. And what I love most is half of our rushes is the quarterback, because that's our best play. It's been our best play all season. So why not run it? Half of your plays is the quarterback run. I don't care if the other team knows it's coming, because we have an athletic quarterback. He goes down, then yeah, sure. TSul, I'll give your buddy Jeff Sims a shot. And you know what? He's going to do the same thing. He's just going to do the quarterback run for me, because that's our best play. Let's run it. Let's get in the end zone a couple of times, because our defense is a solid unit.
See, this is where I'm going to have to disagree with you guys. This is Illinois we're talking about. You're acting like he's the best thing from sliced bread coming out here. Do we not remember what happened the week before? Do we not remember? Haarberg couldn't get anything on offense started. Listen, Jeff Sims might be out there making
off the field last week.
And you called for him to have 20 picks in 3 weeks.
Haarberg didn't pick up a first down. Yes, but however, Haarberg does not come out of Minnesota with the win week 1. I will have you know that. He does not come out of Colorado with a win. He does not come out with Colorado with a win. He has won games that if Jeff Sims was playing, Jeff Sims would have won those games.
Probably.
There is nothing special. Haarberg has a worse completion percentage than Jeff Sims. I do want you to know that. And that is not including his interceptions.
I'm not sitting here saying that if Haarberg started, we'd be undefeated. This team had so many growing pains to go through. I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
It sounds like you are.
I'm telling you that at this point, after beating Illinois, getting your first Big Ten win here and going down the stretch here of very winnable games, how can you pull the plug on a guy who has the team believing in him? I feel like the offense wants to run through a wall for this guy. The defense wants to run through a wall for this guy. They didn't want to do that for Jeff Sims.
See, I disagree. The defense is the same defense. They're going to compete in every game that they can. Obviously, they couldn't compete against Michigan, but did you see our offense? Our offense couldn't do anything. We couldn't even move the ball. We had 5 first downs the entire game against Michigan. And you're going to come out here and tell me that this is the answer? This is our guy? No, I am not 100% bought in. I don't think Haarberg is all that great. Listen, Jeff Sims, they're telling him to sit back there and pass the ball. If Jeff Sims is out there running the ball like Haarberg, all of a sudden you would see the elusiveness and electric speed that Jeff Sims has. That guy is a better athlete than Haarberg.
Well,
I
TSul,
agree with you. I think he is a better athlete, but I don't know that Jeff Sims has put it together or learned the offense to a point that they feel comfortable putting him out there.
But 5 for 15 on third down has you buying it. We got lucky to win this game. I do want to add.
I told you
doesn't take luck to beat Illinois.
Still got lucky.
They are not going to pull the plug. I told you from the get-go after Louisiana Tech, after Northern Illinois, that I thought this was Jeff Sims' job and they weren't going to let him lose his job because of injury, that they were probably going to let him get healthy and come back. After this game and the way that they played, and we are playing with a ton of backups in, I have never seen a team so decimated by injuries on the offensive side of the ball that to the point these guys have bought into what Haarberg's doing that you cannot turn around and put Jeff Sims in. I think it'll screw up the chemistry that they have
bought
going.
in? How have they bought in? They beat NIU and Louisiana Tech, and then you're going to beat Illinois, who has 2 wins the entire season. Illinois does not have a Power 5 win, and you're telling me that they have bought in. This team can do elusive things, electric stuff. Listen, they can't do anything different with this guy.
Has bought into what Haarberg can do at quarterback. The team has. Absolutely.
They haven't.
Because when you come out after getting embarrassed, you got embarrassed by Michigan to the point that you turned around, you practiced an extra day, it's a short week, you're on the road, and you come out and you let this quarterback who wasn't even supposed to be the backup going into the season come out and lead you to a win.
A team with no Power 5 wins. They beat a team that lost to.
Hold on. How many Power 5 wins did we have? I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I thought we were swimming in them. We have every right to be excited about a Big Ten win after coming off these horrible seasons under Scott Frost.
We would be 5-1 if Haarberg would have started the entire year. That's pretty much what you're saying. That's pretty much what you're saying.
Those words have never come out of my mouth.
That is what you're saying. That is what you just said. Because Jeff Sims started, we lost those games.
No,
you're telling me if Jeff Sims started
a different quarterback.
If Jeff Sims started against NIU and Louisiana Tech, would we have lost those games?
No.
If Jeff Sims would have started against Illinois, would we have lost that game?
Yeah.
I think that's more of a coin flip.
How is that a coin flip? This Illinois team is the same caliber as NIU or Louisiana Tech.
To the defense, TSul.
Their defense on Illinois is not as bad as you think it is. And I think with Jeff Sims, they would have dropped back and they would have tried to force the ball. They would have been trying to get his arm going because for all you heard from fall camp and spring ball is Jeff Sims can throw the ball. He's got a heck of a deep ball. Jeff Sims really has a rocket arm. He's going to be playing at the next level. Am I wrong? Did you hear all of this? Jeff Sims couldn't complete a pass to the offense.
He called him to win the Heisman.
That's my point. So when
Illinois does not have a bad defense. Illinois does not have a bad defense. They have the most yards per game given up rushing in the conference. But
we're not talking about rushing. We are talking about the fact that Illinois would have picked off Jeff Sims as much as Minnesota did.
They have the most total yards given up in the conference on defense as well. And might I add, they have the most points given up on defense in the Big Ten. So why don't you just stop that hot take right there, TSul? Why don't you just stop that hot take, TSul? You guys are buying into a quarterback to beat a terrible Illinois team. He beat a terrible non-Power 5 NIU, a terrible non-Power 5 Louisiana Tech, and you're acting like this guy's coming out here winning the Heisman. I don't think so. Not so fast. Jeff Sims is still the guy.
Well, Jay, so the reason why I'm saying it's Haarbog's team right now is because who else do we got? I mean,
Jeff Sims.
Jeff throws a pick. Sims, that guy. That's the guy you're talking about.
Run the ball with Jeff Sims. That is why I
Jeff
gave him
fumbles
the
football.
So
Sims when it touches his hand. Jeff Butterfinger Sims.
I gave him the nickname Jeff throws a pick Sims. So
I'm giving him the nickname Jeff Butterfinger.
Maybe if Jeff Sims, maybe if Satterfield turns into the scoop once in a week, he would know to not throw the ball with Jeff throws a pick Sims. Now, maybe he would run the ball.
What happens when Butterfinger touches it?
Run the ball with Jeff Sims. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. He's a better athlete than Haarberg. And you guys are flat out wrong for having this hot take. Haarberg is not a better quarterback than Jeff Sims. He has a worse QBR, worse completion percentage. He has gotten lucky with who he's played. He did not have to go against a Minnesota week one with a whole brand new team, brand new
scheme. I'm gonna need you to hop off.
He did not have to go against Colorado. He did not have to go against Colorado and all the elite
terrible
athletes.
Defense.
Elite athletes.
Terrible defense, though.
So, yeah.
Oh, so you're telling me that a guy with the worst completion percentage would have came out and beat Colorado? TSul saying that Haarberg would have beat Colorado.
I'm still shocked at the fact that we lost to Colorado.
And I don't think the issue was necessarily Sims, other than the fact that he just dropped the football twice and threw a pick right to the defense. The issue was the play calling, because it should have been Gabe Ervin 98% of the freaking game, to where Jeff Sims didn't even have to touch the ball. Really, you could have benched Sims, put Gabe Ervin back there as the quarterback, and just had him do the Wildcat run every single play, and you would have beat Colorado.
Put Haarberg back there. We're undefeated. That's what you guys are saying.
Maybe.
Look what happened against Michigan. Look what happened against Michigan. You get any team with a pulse, look what happens to Haarberg. He shits the bed.
We weren't going to beat Michigan either way.
But we might have picked up a few more first downs. We might have scored a little bit more.
Oh, so we can hang our hat on a first down against Michigan. Hey, Mom, I got the game ball today because I got the only first down of the game against Michigan.
We would have had more than only one. Unfortunately, because we only started Haarberg that entire game and only played Haarberg that entire game, we did not score a touchdown until Michigan's fourth stringers on the road were in the game. And Fleeks, who's not even a running back, takes the ball and runs down the field for 60 yards. Haarberg did nothing that game, and you guys are buying.
I believe it was 74 yards. Give Josh Haarberg his due.
Hasn't done a single thing, and you guys are buying it.
I ain't buying in. What I'm telling you is this, Jay. So Haarberg is good enough to win you the next 3 games.
Haarberg.
Oh,
you don't even know his name and you're buying into him. You don't even know his name and you're buying into this guy. I ain't buying in.
I'm telling you, he's good enough to win the next 3 games. Go from there.
All right.
Now, TSul.
Sims can win these next 3 games. If Haarberg can win these games. If Haarberg can win these games, Jeff Sims can win.
Nope.
Now, here's an important fact here.
Minnesota's worse than half of these teams we have to play.
Yes. Minnesota is terrible.
Now, you know this Northwestern squad? They beat Minnesota. So Sims already lost to Minnesota.
Jeff Sims would have beat the same teams that Haarberg has beaten.
Say his name correctly. Jeff throws a pick. Sims would lose to Northwestern.
Say his name correctly. Haarberg would have beat Minnesota then. Why don't you say his name correctly there, TSul?
Who's Haarberg?
That's what you keep calling him.
I believe it's the Gummy Bear Factory.
That's Haarberg. But I mean, what's the difference? TSul just doesn't know how to pronounce it.
I think it's Haribo, not Haarberg.
Whatever.
I'm out here eating them Haarberg.
But ultimately, Jason, the ultimate thing that it comes down to these next 3 weeks is running the football. We did it against Illinois. You keep doing it better. And Haarberg runs the football better than Jeff Sims. So he's your guy for the next 3 games.
Oh, my gosh.
Lies. Jeff Sims averages more on the ground than Haarberg. Look it up. Look up the stats.
He averages fumbling the ball more times a game than Haarberg. I completely agree with you. If you're going to talk about rushing stats, you got to talk about fumbles. If you're going to talk about throwing, you got to talk about picks. And guess what? Jeff Sims leads both categories.
Well, if you're going to talk about throwing, you got to talk about completion percentage. And
Yeah,
if
he
you're going to talk about
completes the other
rushing,
team.
you got to talk about yards per carry. And you got to talk about the teams that they win against.
Jeff Sims doesn't have a win. You wouldn't be discussing anything in that category.
Teams. Oh my, yeah.
Really?
Jeff Sims would have lost against NIU.
Really?
Jeff Sims would have lost against NIU. He would have
He
lost
probably
against Louisiana Tech. That's what you're saying.
He probably would have.
I can't even have this conversation. You're delusional.
Jeff throws a pick. Sims would throw a pick. You're the one who gave him the nickname. Now you're going to sit behind him and defend him? I mean, are you so pissed off we beat Illinois that you're just going to battle the coach on the way out?
No, I'm mad that you guys are buying into a quarterback when he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything special. Yes, he beat them. I can go out there and beat them blind.
Well, Jay, so there's something to be said about having our first Big Ten West victory in 2 years.
Against a team that doesn't even have a Power 5 win. Congrats. This Illinois team isn't going to have
a
whoa.
You remember that?
Hold on. What are you talking about? Our first Big Ten West win in 2 years.
Yeah.
We beat Iowa last year.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Did you block that out?
Well,
that was the Mickey Joseph special, my friend.
Haarberg wasn't quarterback, so it doesn't count. Everyone knows.
But the point being is this, Jason. We won a Big Ten West road game. Let's move on to the next and keep battling.
Okay, but Haarberg is not the answer like you're thinking he is.
Well, why would you bench him after a win? That doesn't make any sense. What are you, the Chicago Bears?
If Jeff Sims is healthy, he is a better option.
I disagree.
I think Jeff Sims is more electric. I will
say his name right. Jeff throws a pick. Sims.
I don't need him to throw a pick. I just need the most electric player out there.
Nobody needs him to throw a pick. He's just going to do it.
Say his name right. Heinrich Haarberg. Say his name right.
Haarberg. I'm telling you right now, Jason, going into this Illinois game, I thought for sure if the game was close, the offense looked out of sync, any of that, coming off the bye week, Jeff Sims would be back in there.
You picked us to beat Michigan. Why am I going to take your word?
When did I pick us to beat Michigan? That is one of 2 losses I picked on the season.
He's got a yellow shirt underneath that red sweatshirt. We all see it there.
I do see it now. Yeah, one of 2 losses.
Did you make a secondary bet with the Go Blue guys, and now you have to wear a yellow shirt on the podcast?
I did not make a secondary bet, and I thought it would be interesting as well to the 2 of you to bring up how each of us is doing and how the panel was doing on their picks for the season and who's gotten the most right and the most wrong. And so what would you find more interesting here, JSul? Who's gotten most of the picks for the season right first? Or would you like to know who's sitting in the bottom with the most wrong?
Well, I think I know who's got the most wrong, and it ain't me.
No, that would be correct, JSul. You and I are tied with 2 picks so far wrong on the season.
Hey, what are you smoking at, aren't you?
Now, if we were starting from the bottom here, let's go this way. Actually, let's start from the top because I think it's more interesting and fun this way. So at the top here is Paul.
Well, it's only more fun because you just gave away who's at the top.
Paul and Chazzy are at the top. Each of them so far on the season has picked 5 games correct and 1 game wrong. They both got the same game wrong, and that was the Colorado game.
I thought it was going to be Michigan.
Now, the next level is actually where most of us are sitting. Double D, Big Dog, B. Schneid, JSul, and myself. All have gotten 2 games wrong. Little mix up across the board there. Everybody got Colorado wrong, but about half of us had Minnesota picked as a win that was a loss. The rest of them had Illinois picked as a loss, which was a win. Now, bringing up the rear with 3 games picked incorrectly is our buddy TSul, who seems to continually tell all of us that he knows what he's talking about. He's the smartest guy on the panel, and everything he touches and picks is correct and never wrong. And so, TSul, I got to ask, how are you feeling at this halfway point in the season? Do you think your 5-1 remaining record is realistic?
The Huskers going 5-1?
Yes.
Definitely.
And you still feel confident that that one loss is going to be to Maryland?
Honestly, TSul, I'm actually shocked that Maryland isn't in the top 25 right now. I'm shocked.
It's hard to be in the top 25 after getting embarrassed like that by self-destructing.
Everyone else in the top 25 is getting embarrassed, and yet they're still ranked.
That is one thing I would have to agree with TSul.
I'm just saying, Maryland has a legit quarterback, and based on what I've seen, I'd be ranking a team with a good quarterback.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, TSul. When USC finally loses, like they should have done in the past, 2-3 weeks, do they all of a sudden drop out of the top 25? No, they're not going to just drop out of the top 25.
Maryland was never in the top 25, so that's your first mistake.
They were the only Power 5 undefeated team at 5-0 not ranked.
I don't know that that's true there, TSul.
It is true. I saw a stat about it. Now they lost. Now the stats, null and void, but ultimately they should have at least been 25. If you didn't believe in them, they should have at least been 25.
They should have been ranked.
Yeah, they should have been. They were 5-0.
I can agree with that.
You could claim they didn't play anybody, but then neither did Michigan. So why are we ranking Michigan in the top 5?
Well, why was Colorado all of a sudden up there? Who did they beat?
They beat TCU.
Who was that? They beat us.
Yeah, that's a stellar win.
TCU is a solid unit still. I believe they haven't lost since then.
Yes, they have.
TCU is not a solid unit.
They're a solid unit.
On what standards? Illinois standards? Then heck yeah, they are.
All right. So let me just ask you guys this, just because I'm very curious, and I know TSul seems to think that I believe Illinois is the worst team in the Big Ten. So let's just bypass. Let's go right through it. So if I told you were going to beat Towson, Charlotte, University of Virginia, Michigan State, Indiana to start 5-0, you think you deserve to be in the top 25?
If you're undefeated, yes.
When those teams collectively have scored, I believe, a total of 22 points on the season.
If you're undefeated, you should be ranked.
Okay,
why was Tulane ranked? Why was Tulane ranked? Who did Tulane beat?
Tulane returned a lot of starters from a very good team last year.
Okay, TSul, you want to play this game? If you beat East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, and Minnesota, you deserve to be ranked number 1 in the country, according to you.
TSul, the hard part here is I would tell you no off of the schedule. However, Michigan returned a majority of their team from the playoffs last year. This isn't a Maryland team that made the playoffs or was very good last year or any of that. Maryland is a shock this year with what they've been doing. That is why they are not ranked.
I picked them that way. And don't you even argue against that. And they're going to either top Michigan or Penn State, and that's coming soon, Scoopers.
Well, you said they would beat one of the 3, and they already lost to one of them. So I'd love to see them.
Because Ohio State's probably the best team on that side.
Where were you? Didn't you? Hold on.
I'll argue that all day long.
I believe earlier this episode, you came out and said Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten. So
Kevin Warren's head.
How?
That's not my head.
The best team. How would they be the best team if Ohio State is the best team in your opinion?
According to Kevin Warren, you didn't finish the quote there, TSul. You can't just make stuff up.
You got to change things and do all of that.
I ain't Kevin Warren. I ain't worried. I'm telling you this: Ohio State has a legit victory under their belt, and none of the other teams in the East do. So if you're going to give Michigan favoritism for what they did last year, guess what? I don't care what they did last year. It's all about this year. And Ohio State beat Notre Dame. That should rocket them above everybody else in the East. Because who have you beat?
I'm sorry. I thought you were going to come out and say they beat Maryland, so they should be jumped up above everybody else. I'm surprised that you went to Notre Dame there, the way that you've been cheering on Maryland all season.
They don't rank Maryland. You know, as much as I want the Huskers to be good, I can't give Michigan props for beating us. Hasn't stopped everyone else.
I think Michigan is also lucky with the schedule layout that they have this year.
Let me ask you this, TSul. So Maryland dropping a game to Ohio State in a tougher battle where they actually had the lead through, I believe, the first quarter and into the second quarter.
Wow.
Is a worse team than Kansas, who got mollywopped by Texas.
Yeah, but you saw what do you guys say on that?
Now,
they didn't just get beat, they got mollywopped.
They got mollywopped by a Texas team that turned around and got mollywopped by Oklahoma.
Exactly my point. Do you think Kansas is better than Maryland? There is a bias.
I would say yes.
Okay, how about this? You got Kentucky, who beat Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, Vanderbilt, and horrible Florida Gators. And they got mollywopped by Georgia, and they're a better team than Maryland.
Yes.
Kentucky. We're not talking basketball. We're talking football.
Before we move off of Kansas,
Maryland.
Before we move off of Kansas, I want to know who they have beaten. You know, they beat Montana State.
Jason, I got Kansas losing the next 5 games.
They beat Illinois. They beat Illinois in a closer game. Nebraska blew out Illinois. Don't forget that. Should Nebraska be ranked? That's another question. They beat Nevada. They beat BYU. Ooh, I'm feeling.
Wait. TSul, you can't forget.
They beat
I
UCF.
believe BYU was TSul's dark horse to win the Big 12. So therefore, TSul, your dark horse for the Big 12 lost to Kansas, which would therefore mean Kansas is the best team in the Big 12 according to TSul's rankings.
Not to win the Big 12, they're my dark horse to play in the Big 12 championship. And TSul, based off of that Oklahoma over Texas victory, BYU is very much alive in the Big 12.
How do you figure? The Big 12 championship will be a rematch of Oklahoma and Texas.
I think that's almost impossible at this point.
Can you please explain to me how you think that is impossible?
BYU's got 1 loss. They're 4-1. And it's apparently to Kansas, who's going to lose the next 5 games, so that eliminates them.
So BYU has 1 conference loss. Texas has 1 conference loss. Oklahoma has 0. West Virginia has 0. I would tell you West Virginia's got a better shot right now than BYU.
Then you would just be wrong.
How do you figure? If you are undefeated in conference play, you would have a better shot than a team that has a loss so far.
They got rolled by Penn State. They're not going to make it very far in the Big 12.
That's their only loss.
So what? Who have they beat? Texas Tech? You want to give your hats off to Texas Tech? Let me remind you, Texas Tech does not have Patrick Mahomes anymore.
Yeah.
Texas Tech did put up a fight against Oregon.
It's exactly my point, Jason.
Texas Tech also only has 1 conference loss there, TSul, and they're higher ranked than your BYU Cougars. So can you admit that BYU will not be in the Big 12 championship game? Because that is a horrible take.
How far off the rankings did you have to scroll to see those names?
BYU?
Yes.
They are the 8th best team in the Big 12.
So we're not even looking at it in the country because I can't even count that high.
All right. Well, I'm sick about this Big 12. Let's talk about the Big 10 or maybe top 25 matchups that we're looking forward to. TSul, what top 25 matchups come to your head, or Big 10, whatever you want to talk about?
Well, we can start it off with the top 25, and let me start this off hot. How is the number 10 team in the country? Yes, you might be on the road. You're going against the number 24 team in the country. How are you? Or sorry, number 21 team in the country in the AP pool. In the AP poll. How are you the underdog? Yep, exactly. That's what it should be called after the number 10 team in the country is an underdog. Underdog. If you're the number 10 team in the country, you should never be an underdog if you're playing somebody below you. But that is not the game in the top 25 that I am circling that you might want to watch because things might get a little dicey for the team who is ranked above. And honestly, that was going to be one I circled because I think USC is a sham. I don't think Notre Dame is all that good either, but I think USC is a sham, and it is going to show this week as I believe USC is going to get knocked off. Finally, we have been waiting for it. And game to watch, though, is going to be Oregon-Washington. Honestly, we're just going to be seeing who can outscore the other, and that is how that game is going to go. But for my underdog, I got to pull out on this game. I think I am going to go with UCLA over Oregon State. I don't think Oregon State is all that good. I think they are all right is at Oregon State, which is a tough place to play. But I think DJ Ugalungaway is going to drop this game, and that is where we're going to see Oregon State drop out of the top 25 with 2 losses or drop down to 24-25.
Yeah, TSul, I agree with you. I think it's crazy to me that the number 10 team in the country is a dog this week. I think that's insane. If we are talking straight game to watch, I agree with you. Game to watch of the week, Oregon, Washington, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., going to be some great quarterback play there. Going to be a game that everybody should turn on, should watch. It's going to be in prime time, and you're not going to want to miss it. Now, if our goal is to pick the most likely upset in the top 25 this week, TSul, UCLA, Oregon State's going to be a good game. It's going to be close. And like you said, playing in Oregon State, going to Corvallis is never easy. I can tell you right now, the easiest upset to pick this week is Mizzou over Kentucky. And I really like Kentucky. I like both these teams. Both these teams have played really well all season. And I can tell you right now, Mizzou coming off that heartbreaking loss to LSU on a pick 6 to put the game away. Mizzou is coming out firing. They're going to be hot, and they are going to take down Kentucky this week.
Well, TSul, I don't know that I'm buying that because Mizzou hasn't quite been the same Mizzou team that left the Big 12. I do agree with both of you guys that Washington and Oregon's the game to watch, but it might be over by halftime because I think Washington's just going to roll them. I think Washington's one of the best teams in the country, and I think Washington's ultimately going to be representing the Pac-12 in the college football playoff this year. Based on what I've seen, Washington seems to be the unstoppable force this season. But my game to watch for my upset, I'll do 2. I'll just do outside of the Big Ten and inside of the Big Ten. And outside of the Big Ten, I think that Louisville is due for a letdown game.
Horrible take.
No.
Horrible take.
Jeff Brom
is not losing to Pitt.
Louisville isn't that good. They were a terrible team last year. You bring in Jeff Brom, you're not going undefeated, TSul. They just took out Notre Dame, a team that nobody in the country gave them a chance to do. They have a tough schedule to end the season. I think they're doomed on the road at Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's going to show up to play in that game.
Well, let's not stop there.
Show up, but let's just wait a second here. I'm sorry. How do you see this team losing to Pitt? TSul, this Louisville team is built up from Jeff Brom, and he was able to
build.
It's
his first season. What do you mean it's built off Jeff Brom?
Jeff Brom brought
he barely even unpacked his bags.
Yeah, brought 23 players in through the transfer portal, handful of Purdue guys, such as their quarterback. Jack Plummer has been huge for them. They've won games, and I believe earlier this episode, were you not talking that the reason Ohio State had been winning championships is that they weren't scheduling Purdue? Purdue was coached by Jeff Brom, so therefore they weren't scheduling Jeff Brom. Jeff Brom is now here coaching in Louisville, and he is going to beat Pitt this week.
Well, you think TSul got fired up on that one? Wait till you hear this one. I want another game that you got to be watching. It is Sam Jackson the Fifth, and Cal is going to be taking down the number 16 overrated Utah. And I think Utah is a sham. They're overrated, and there is nothing spectacular about that team. But I do want to clap back at TSul real quick. Oregon and Washington is not going to be over at halftime. And if it is, I think it's going to be the other way around. Washington does not have a defense like Oregon. Oregon has the athletes on defense as well. Washington only is a one-sided football team. They are an offensive team. They are going to outscore you. That is their game plan. However, Oregon can keep up with the scoring, and I do believe that Oregon's defense is going to have more stops in the game than Washington's.
TSul, I would not jump on that train with you because
I'm already on it there, TSul.
Washington has been dominating everybody so far this season.
Every game. Washington is the best team in the Pac-12. And TSul,
I might argue they're the best in the country, honestly, based on what I've seen.
I don't know that I would go that far, but they are definitely the best in the Pac-12. How about anybody who's already ranked above them?
Okay, but
so because they blew out Michigan State, Tulsa, Boise State, beat Arizona by one score,
and Cal, who you're calling for a top 25 upset this week. These guys rolled those guys. So, TSul, if your pick comes true, that makes Washington look a little bit better.
And I can tell you right now that ludicrous pick of Cal upsetting Utah is just, it's not going to happen. And let me tell you,
it's not ludicrous.
Yeah, it is extremely ludicrous. And I can tell you right now,
Cal put up 32 on this Washington, so-called the best team in the Pac-12.
They put up 32 points. Congratulations. I can tell you right now, this Utah team, the biggest issue that they've had is the fact that Cam Rising has not been healthy at all this season.
And he's not going to play. And he's not going to play.
And he's done for the year. Losing. That's why he's getting that medical red shirt. But I can tell you right now,
that's why they're losing.
Johnson has done a fantastic job filling in for him.
Wait till Sam Jackson the fifth is out there throwing dimes against this defense, just dotting them all over the field. But I do want to add that Oregon has blown out teams just like Washington. However, they have held all of their opponents to less than 10 points other than Texas Tech.
Well, TSul, apparently all the coaches from around the country were phoning in to help Oregon beat Colorado. So
they really needed
give them props against Colorado personally. They were. It's already come out that everyone around the country got sick of Colorado and they all phoned in to help them game plan against them. So how good is Oregon if they need help game planning against Colorado?
I could have game planned against that team.
Well, apparently Oregon needed help. So that just shows you how terrible of coaching that Oregon potentially has on their end.
Well, if they needed get help, it was
against Washington.
If they needed help, it was pretty good intel they got with how they did.
But what I'm telling you is this, TSul. My upset, top 25 upset out of the Big Ten. You might have guessed it, Scoopers, from earlier on this podcast, but I got Purdue upsetting Ohio State this week because they finally scheduled them. They went against what Kevin Warren wanted to do, and it's going to cost the Buckeyes their playoff hopes this season.
Now listen, mine is not a top 25 pick for an upset in the Big Ten. It is my game to watch of the week in the Big Ten, and I see this one going as an upset. And this is Brian Ferentz's coming out party against Wisconsin. I think the defense is going to lock down and hold Wisconsin under 20 points, and it is going to be Brian Ferentz hitting his 25-point mark and winning this game.
Yeah, TSul, I think this Iowa-Wisconsin game has trouble written all over it for both teams. I think it's going to come down to whose quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes, because both defenses are stout. Both defenses are going to try and stop the run. They're going to sell out for it. So it's going to come down to who can make the most pass attempts. I agree with you. I do like Iowa in this game, and maybe that's just me being biased, hoping that Wisconsin can get a Big Ten loss here.
No, I'm with you both. I don't think that Wisconsin is that great of a football team. I think they have one of the easiest schedules in the West this season, and they might benefit from that with their record. But when it comes down to it, we know that Iowa plays elite defense. Wisconsin plays good defense. And Wisconsin's trying to change their whole structure of what they do on offense. They're trying to be pass happy. They've been a running football team. So there's going to be some growing pains when it comes to that. And Iowa already knows their identity. They're elite defense and minimal offense, hit the tight end, run the football, run the clock. And I don't think Wisconsin's going to be able to match that. I don't think Iowa's going to blow them out, but I think that they'll take the victory when it comes down to the final seconds.
Well, let me tell you something. The only close game Wisconsin has played at the end, like close towards the end of the game. Obviously, all the other games were kind of close until Wisconsin likes to put up points at the end of the game. They lost that game in a one-score game. They lost to Washington State. Not a one-score game, sorry, but the closest game they've played all year. It was a 9-point game that I believe Washington State went for 2 to put him up two scores.
And that's my point, Jay. So there's no such thing as a quick 1-year fix. And that's why B-Cells, he's delusional, living in his delusional world, thinking that Jeff Brom can fix Louisville football in one season is just crazy.
Now, I've got a interesting proposition here for you both, because TSul seems to think that Jeff Brom is not a good coach, which is just ludicrous. But I'm done. I'm moving past it. I'm not going to get frustrated with the fact that you don't want to buy into the Cardinals beating Pittsburgh this week. How about this? It's a bye week. We all love college football. We're all going to have it on. We're going to be watching. I want to get you two to lock in 2 things. I want you to lock in an upset for the week. It can be, you need to lock in 1 lock, so a team to cover their spread points, and 1 upset. Your upset or your spread, one needs to be from the Big Ten schedule. The other needs to be from the top 25 matchups. I want 1 outright upset and 1 outright covering the spread.
From each?
No, just 2 games total, but you have to have 1 from each.
Well, I would say I got Iowa covering the spread and as my upset. But if I got to go into the top 25 as well to pick one.
So is Iowa your outright upset? Because they are not favored, so they wouldn't be covering the spread.
They would be covering the spread. Actually, they would be covering the spread and getting the upset.
But you're taking them to win outright.
No, I will take them to cover the points, and I will take Cal to upset Utah.
All right. If I'm locking mine, and I got Rutgers covering the spread over Michigan State, that's an easy one. They're only favored by 4.5, so I think they'll win by more than a touchdown against those guys. And my top 25 upset. Wait, am I doing upset? Yeah. Let's see. I got Pittsburgh over Louisville.
Now, I feel like both of you are locking in your games here a little crazy here, because I think you're taking shots at teams that I believe in, which is just throwing your pick away here.
Throwing our pick away, Mr. Delusional. Yep. Throwing our pick away.
So I'm going to lock in as my upset here, Mizzou over Kentucky. I think that's a lock. I think that's easy to do. My cover, and it's a little aggressive, they're getting a lot of points here. I'm going to take Penn State to cover over UMass in the Big Ten. Penn State is a 41.5-point favorite, and UMass, yes, they do have one win on the season, but they are the worst team in all of college football.
They can't be the worst team in all of college football if they got a win.
Well, I beg to differ.
Well, the team they played begs to differ as well there, Bisa. But thanks for joining us for another week of the Sully Scoop. You're here with JSul,
BSul,
and TSul.
And don't forget to follow and like, and you can find us on Twitter at Sully_Scoop.
Go Big Red.